All right, today we're going to be doing our evaluation of Further Ado. This is a very fascinating horse because he has delivered the best 2-year-old performance and also the best 3-year-old performance of any horse will be running in this year's Kentucky Derby. But there's a catch. Both of those standout performances came at Keeneland, where you see him winning the Bluegrass Stakes here in this image. Indeed, Further Ado has delivered 2 otherworldly performances at Keeneland. This maiden win by 20 lengths in a 12-horse field with a gigantic number, and this Bluegrass victory, Grade 1 victory by 11 lengths with another gigantic number. The worry is that his races away from Keeneland do leave him a cut below the top contenders. Before we really get into studying Further Ado's races, let's take a look at his pedigree. He's sired by Gunrunner. Gunrunner was a horse that finished third in the 2016 Kentucky Derby. He was a pretty good 3-year-old, but he became an absolutely awesome 4-year-old. You see his form here, third in the Derby, was 5th in the Haskell, got beat 15 lengths in the Travers by Arrogate, 2nd in the Pennsylvania Derby, 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Gunrunner really found his form late in his 3-year-old season, winning the Clark Big, and then had a phenomenal 4-year-old season. This kind of past performances was going into his Breeders' Cup Classic, which he won decisively as a 4-year-old. Further Ado's dam is named Sky Dreamer. She did her best running at 1 1/8, was graded stakes placed. And this is a great Ward Oxley family, great female family here. The third dam, Beautiful Pleasure. You see Beautiful Pleasure's form here. She certainly improved as her career went along, and only twice did she get to run 1 1/4. The first time was in the Personal Ensign handicap at Saratoga, 9-2 odds. Won it clear over the mighty Banshee Breeze, beat the favorite Banshee Breeze. And her only other 1 1/4 start was also the Personal Ensign, Grade 1, winning it by 5 lengths. Beautiful Pleasure had a lot of speed, but she could carry it as far as they'd write races. She had a full brother named Mecky, who was just an outstanding stamina horse, 1 1/4 to 1.5 type. These were Ward and Oxley's 2 best horses, Monarchos and Beautiful Pleasure. You see Monarchos is the sire of the second dam of Further Ado, and he actually won the Kentucky Derby in the 2nd fastest time ever. Here's Monarchos. He was just 1 of 2 horses to run 1 1/4 in under 2 minutes in the Kentucky Derby, with Secretariat being the other one. So as far as the pedigree goes with Further Ado, it's a real nice pedigree, and it is a route pedigree. Route and development, I would say. All right, with the pedigree analysis out of the way, we'll get back to Further Ado's form. These 2 early season sprints at Saratoga, not really too concerned with him. He got his first route attempt in his 3rd start, 1 1/16 at Keeneland, and just run off the screen. 12-horse field, winning by 20 lengths. It was a big margin even between 2nd and 3rd, 4 1/4 lengths. Just a sensational performance in very, very strong time. Off that race, Further Ado comes back in 6 weeks in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Wins it clear enough by 1 3/4 lengths. Not as impressive as that maiden race, but he did manage to get the job done as the 3-5 favorite. Now, Further Ado was laid off for all of December, all of January, all of February. Comes back March 7th, makes his 3-year-old debut at Tampa March 7th, off a more than 3-month layoff. And running 1 1/16 at Tampa off a layoff is a pretty tough ask. I mean, that's a quirky surface there. And Further Ado ran well enough, running 2nd in the Tampa Derby before running off the screen in the Bluegrass last time out, winning by 11 lengths. And we'll go with his most recent races and work his way back. We're going to take a look at Further Ado winning the Bluegrass Stakes right now. All right, Further Ado, number 6. That's who we're watching. I'll run it now.
And they're off in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. There's Talkin' with Great White from the inside, and Great White comes forward for the lead. Creole Chrome is there to the far outside of the opening strides, then Talkin' back toward the rail as they head into the first turn. Reagan's Honor is next. Further Ado is wide. 3 lanes off the rail as they head round the first turn in the 5th position. Otinho is now next to last as they travel off the turn and onto the backstretch. Moonstrosity is the early trailer. Great White is the leader. Great White to the inside leads it by just a neck. Creole Chrome tries to draw alongside from second. Further Ado was wide around the first turn, moves up into third, a length and a half off the front pair, 23.6 seconds, the time for the opening quarter. Reagan's Honor, fourth between horses. Talkin' moves up one spot to the inside of that one. Then a break of over 5 more lengths to Otinho next to last, and nearly 4 more back of that one. Monstrosity is the trailer as they reach the midpoint of the backstretch. Creole Chrome to the outside, challenging Great White for the lead. Further Ado still there to the outside, still third by just a neck, and Talkin' fourth back toward the inside. 47.71 seconds the time for the first half mile. Reagan's Honor 5 lengths off the lead in fifth, on to the far turn. Back up front, Creole Chrome has the lead by just a head around the turn. Further Ado is looking for some more running room, swings back up toward the outside and comes after Great White and Creole Chrome. Just over a quarter mile to come. Top of the stretch of the Toyota Bluegrass. Further Ado moving forward to the far outside to take the lead off the far turn. Creole Chrome is now second. Great White drops back third. Talkin' is in fourth. Into the final furlong. It's Further Ado by 5. Further Ado by 6, by 8. We've seen this before. Here he comes to the 16th pole. A magnificent run to win the Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass. Further Ado, Irad Ortiz Jr. Spendthrift wins the Bluegrass. Otinho did rally up to be second, followed by Talkin' in third.
All right, so that was Further Ado, absolutely demolishing the field in the Bluegrass. He tracked about 3 or 4 paths wide, was actually kind of wide on the far turn, but it didn't matter. Just put the field away with devastating ease and drew off. But there was a pretty concerning thing that happened in mid-stretch. I'll show you now. Further Ado made a lead change in mid-stretch and switched to the wrong lead. This is generally a bad sign, especially when horses run peak performances. I made my own speed figures for a while. I worked for Timeform, made figures for them. When you see a horse run a breakout career best race and do this late in a race, a late lead change, it's usually a very bad sign and a sign that a bounce is coming. We'll watch that now. All right, you see Further Ado is on the correct lead here. He is going to switch just before the 16th pole here to the wrong lead. See, I got it slowed down for you. See if you can pick it up. Right there. Right there. That move right there. I'll show you one more time. All right. Right there. Right there. He switches to the wrong lead. He's on the wrong lead the rest of the way. And in Further Ado's case, this is where the gate was. So he might have been distracted by something with a tire track from the gate was. And that's what caused him to make that late lead change. Still kind of disconcerting. You see Further Ado here. No shadow roll, no blinkers, none of that stuff. Maybe he was looking around a bit, lost focus all by himself, got distracted. Maybe I'm making excuses for him, but to me, that's what it looked like it was there, which makes it less worrisome. But still not a good sign. When you see these late lead switches, they're either sore, tired, or distracted. And there's a lot that can distract you in the Kentucky Derby. You'll see this type of stuff every day watching races, especially cheaper races. But I'll show you an example here. This is the 2014 Kentucky Derby. We're watching Commanding Curve, who finishes second in this race. Watch him make a late lead change. You see he's on the correct lead. He's on the correct lead. On the correct lead. Still on the correct lead. And right about here, right there, he switches to the wrong lead. So that's Commanding Curve running second to California Chrome. And here's Commanding Curve's past performances. You see the second there in the Kentucky Derby. Running a career best figure, basically a breakthrough race. And whenever you see horses run like a peak career best race that comes from almost out of nowhere, and you see that late lead change, it's a worrying thing. And in Commanding Curve's case, it never really was the same horse again. A sign there that they're either sore or tired or distracted, and generally not a good sign when they're running a peak race, that's for sure. But anyway, that's the only nitpicking I do with Further Ado's Bluegrass performance, because other than that, it was a sensational performance. Just absolutely tremendous. Position fifth early, out in the clear, had to go around horses and just always moving forward, completely crushed the field. Now we're going to take a look at this March 7th layoff race. Like we said, this was a tough ask, tough assignment, off a layoff, returning in the Tampa Bay Derby. A real quick pace that day, 23 flat, 46 and 3. And Further Ado was much closer to that pace than the Puma was, or even the third place finisher, who's a nice horse as well. But Further Ado finishes second off the layoff. The Puma, who beats him, came right back and almost won the Florida Derby, was involved in a head bob. Let's take a look at the Tampa Bay Derby right now. All right, here's the Tampa Bay Derby. Further Ado, number 6. Your eventual winner, the Puma, number 8. With that said, we're going to let the great track announcer, Jason Beam, give you the call. Here's a Tampa Derby.
Okay. And the race is on in the S-Mark Tampa Bay Derby. Power Shift hopped just a touch at the start. Redland Rebels was out in good order. Further Ado and talking right between them. Those are the top three. Canaletto tries to find his spot. Fourth to the outside. Going to be cast out about 4 deep as they run into that turn. In behind them, Hulkamania, Power Shift in on tight on heels there. Just in behind runners. Thunderbuck is after that. Canaletto's about 5 or 6 paths wide now. Roger that. Dana is second last. The Puma is the early trailer. As Redland Rebels and Junior Alvarado to dictate terms. Redland Rebels to the backstretch. 23 seconds flat for the opening quarter mile, so they settle in for that backstretch run. It's Redland Rebels a length and 3/4 in front of Talkin. Further Ado, well placed third to the outside. Length and a half more then back to Canaletto, who moves up on the outside of Power Shift. Hulkamania stays to their inside. After that is Thunderbuck, who's racing along in that 7th position. The Puma's out of last. Roger that. Dana the long shot is now the trailer. So there's a half mile left to go in the S-Mark Tampa Bay Derby. 46.68 seconds was the opening half-mile time. It's long shot Redland Rebels, who's led throughout. Talkin is second, pushed along. Further Ado glides up from third. Down on the inside, Hulkamania. Canaletto giving a bit of a cue. The Puma is 4 or 5 wide as they wind around that turn. Redland Rebels, Further Ado coming after this long time leader. Canaletto's 3 deep. The Puma 4 wide and is on the move. Talkin's in behind horses. Hulkamania stays down toward the inside as they wind around to the top of the stretch. The Puma and Canaletto out 4 and 5 wide respectively coming after Further Ado. Redland Rebels still battling on. They're 4 across the track as they come to the 8th pole. On the outside, the Puma, Canaletto, Further Ado right there. Redland Rebels not done as they have a final 16th to go. The Puma, Further Ado, these two go on. Canaletto's between them. The Puma's in front late. The Puma wins the Tampa Bay Derby. Second was tight. I think it was Further Ado over Canaletto. Redland Rebels ran a big one in 4th, and Talkin was 5th.
All right, so Further Ado with a second place finish there. Kind of got swept on the turn. The Puma made a big move on the far turn, was 5 wide. Although Tampa's one of those tracks where sometimes you're better off being wide than on the inside there. But the Puma made just a powerful circling move. Further Ado had to fight back, did fight back for a while, but wasn't able to turn back the Puma off the layoff. Did get a solid 92 buyer. There were some things to like about the race, but it wasn't, it wasn't some performance like the Bluegrass that would have you all excited. All right, now we're going to go back to the Grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club, which was Further Ado's final start at age 2. This was on November 29th at Churchill. And I didn't think this was the toughest race on paper. Had a pretty good pace to it. Further Ado managed to get the job done, but was not exactly flashy, more like workmanlike in this race. With that said, we'll watch it now. All right, and here's the Kentucky Jockey Club. Further Ado, number 6, post position 6.
Cherokee Nation unsettled, and they're off. And a good start for Further Ado. And so too Soldier and Diplomat and Dr. Kapoor. Cherokee Nation races through toward the inside. Fluffy and Pratt sending him hard. Oh, a bit awkward there for Cherokee Nation. Cherokee Nation steadied off the heels of Dr. Kapoor. Couldn't get to the lead and is now relegated back into 3rd. So it is Dr. Kapoor who leads the way around the opening turn with Soldier and Diplomat Keen in 2nd. Cherokee Nation settles nicely inside while 3rd. Further Ado just off them 4th, and it's Spice Runner 5th, 3 lengths back. Universe in 6th, and very connected, the last of them all, as they chase Dr. Kapoor through an opening quarter in a sharp 23 and 1/5 seconds. Pace is solid indeed.
Dr. Kapoor leads the way heading to the half-mile pole. Soldier and Diplomat up alongside second. And now Cherokee Nation comes off the rail and floats the big favorite wide. Further Ado is 4 wide on the far turn, but Further Ado is up into third now as they round the far turn. Dr. Kapoor confronted by Soldier and Diplomat. And these two knock heads round the far turn. And now it's 3 across the track as Further Ado sidles up with a 3 wide bid as they hit the top of the stretch. Soldier and Diplomat is off the turn with the lead. Further Ado is now set down for the drive, and these two 1-2 with a furlong to go. Soldier and Diplomat digs in grimly. Further Ado having to work for it, comes up alongside. Farther back, Universe into third. 100 yards to go, and Further Ado has overhauled Soldier and Diplomat. Further Ado does it again, this time by 2.
All right, so that was Further Ado grinding it out in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Got the job done, nothing too impressive. You want to see impressive, and I know it's just a maiden race, but October 10th at Keeneland, what a performance this is. Wait till you see this one. We'll watch it now. Further Ado is number 8.
Goes in, first wire at the post. And they're off. Further Ado comes out running for the lead. Brave Force is there to the inside, and Ambassador Blue is also up close. There's Tis Authority toward the outside. Vino Vici on the extreme outside as they head into the first turn. His 5th here in the opening strides. Brave Force moves up the rail, takes the lead from Further Ado, who's second up on the outside by a half length. Ambassador Blue will go third. Highly connected 4th, Vino Vici. 5th up on the outside, Tis Authority. A lane off the rail around the first turn. And 6th, Apollo 11. His 7th on his outside, running 5 lengths off the lead. Then a gap of 2 more lengths to Algero, who travels 8th inside of Federal Agent in 9th. Super Caliber is 10th. Timberline is 11th. Beale Street Boy last to the 12. 23.17 seconds the time for the opening quarter. Brave Force leading Further Ado by 3/4 of a length. Midpoint of the backstretch. Ambassador Blue is racing in third, 3 lengths off the lead. Third by just a neck. Vino Vici is 4th up on the outside. Apollo 11 a wide 5th to the far turn. And then Highly Connected comes next. It was 47.1 for the first half mile. Tis Authority is still running 7 lengths off the lead. Here's Further Ado, takes aim midway on the far turn and comes after the lead and has the lead now by a neck. Further Ado takes the lead by 3/4 of a length. Brave Force is second toward the inside, 1/4 mile to go, gap of 5 lengths. Vino Vici is racing along in the 3rd position. Apollo 11 is 4th, but 8 lengths off the lead as they turn into the short stretch. Then Ambassador Blue, Tis Authority is still far back. Algero a dozen lengths from the lead. And in the meantime, Further Ado is kicking on into the final furlong. 8 lengths to the good. Vino Vici a distant second now to Brave Force in third. It is Further Ado well in front of the field. Iran Ortiz Jr. Further Ado wins it. It was Vino Vici who was across the line in the 2nd position.
All right, so that was Further Ado's breakout race. First time going a route of ground, first time going 2 turns. We don't really need to take a look at these 2 sprints here. So there's just not much to see. I don't think this horse was ready to sprint early in his career. So in yesterday's episode, we took a look at Renegade, and I did some form comparisons with Renegade. Further Ado is a pretty tough horse to do a form comparison with. But the horse that I am most reminded of when I look and study Further Ado, it's a horse that, frankly, was not as good as him, was basically like a poor man's version of Further Ado. And it was a horse named Midway Road. Here's Midway Road's form, and he really was like a poor man's version of Further Ado. You see a couple of sprint starts at Arlington. Similar type of performances to Further Ado ran in his 2 starts at Saratoga. Then Midway Road gets to stretch out around 2 turns at Keeneland in an allowance race. And this was an extremely fast allowance race. At this time, I was making speed figures, and I couldn't believe it, the number I got for this race. And Beyer had it fast. Everybody had this race fast. He won at 7 lengths. The horse that was second was, I believe, a Pletcher horse that was well clear of the third and came back to win his next start, the 2nd place horse. A lot of horses run good out of this race. Midway Road came back in the Kentucky Jockey Club next time out, got bet to 4-1, didn't run so well. Returned again at Keeneland in April and just run an absolute hole in the wind, winning by 11 3/4 lengths. Again, got a big figure. I had the number big. Pretty much everyone had it big. Off this cut of form, Midway Road went into the Preakness in his next start. It was the 2003 Preakness, and that Preakness field was not deep at all. There was Funny Side, who won the Kentucky Derby and was going to be very, very tough to beat. There was Peace Rules, who was all right, pretty rock solid 3-year-old for Bobby Frankel. And the rest of that field were absolute tomato cans. Midway Road brought this form into the race. He fit on numbers. The two numbers at Keeneland fit well in the race. Funny Side and Peace Rules still had better numbers than him, but Funny Side and Peace Rules were two horses that had identical running styles. They both liked to kind of press the leader. And you knew they were going to hook up in the race. They're the only two horses that could possibly win the race on paper. So the two horses with the exact same forward running style had to hook up, and they did. I mean, they didn't go at each other's throat from the start, but Funny Side made a real early run at Peace Rules, and Peace Rules couldn't fend him off. Funny Side put him away, and Midway Road came in second that race at 20-1 odds. I made a $12,000 score on the race. I played an exacta with Midway Road underneath. The exacta paid huge. It was ridiculous. He had a favorite over. He had Funny Side, who was like 9-5 in the race, and Midway Road clunking up for second. Like, they were betting Lucas's horse Scrimshaw, who was just, was just getting destroyed in race after race, and Lucas just kept running him. And, people that didn't want to bet the obvious horses for whatever reason, Lucas has a good record in the Triple Crown races. But Midway Road was trained by Neil Howard, who's a very conservative trainer. So off this race here at Keeneland, Neil Howard steps a horse up into the Preakness. He's not going to do that unless, he was really confident that the horse came out of the race well. And these wins were in allowance races. So, you get the class handicappers, they'll dismiss a horse like that because, he hadn't really done anything in stake races. But Midway Road is really the poor man's version of Further Ado. I remember the only dilemma I had with him in the Preakness. I'd have probably bet him to win and been very excited, made a big win bet, if not for the fact that I was really worried that this looked like, a Keeneland specialist type horse, because those two big races came at Keeneland. And in fact, Midway Road eventually proved that that's what he was. He made 4 starts at Keeneland, the 2 on his form here, and 2 later. The next time he ran at Keeneland, it was in a graded stake. It was either the Ben Ally or the Fayette. It was like a grade 2 stake with a $400,000 purse or something. He went off at 5-1 in that race and won it by 11 lengths, actually over. It was like 11 and a half lengths. I remember he beat Evening Attire that day. Midway Road, a horse that is, I remember fondly. This is like 23 years ago or whatever, but I remember Midway Road fondly. He certainly did love Keeneland, but he was able to clunk up to get second in a bad Preakness. And he obviously had, the same concern. The only concern really to have with him is that the 2 big breakout races are at Keeneland. That is obviously the concern with Further Ado. Clearly, Midway Road was a horse for course at Keeneland. Clearly, Further Ado is a horse for course. But dirt racing is dirt racing. Just because a horse really loves a certain track, it doesn't mean they should be 20 or 30 points better at that said track. It's still a dirt surface. There are some slight differences and peculiarities to these tracks, but not enough where it should really overwhelm your decision. So the central question here is, how will Further Ado do at Kentucky's other dirt track, Kentucky's other major dirt track? There's Keeneland and there's Churchill. They're both Kentucky dirt tracks. Yeah, he loves Keeneland. There's some slight peculiarities with each track, but they can't be too different, can they? Still is dirt racing. Yes, Further Ado's a horse for course at Keeneland. He has won at Churchill, but there was a regression that day, and there probably will be a little regression in the Derby. But boy, if he runs anything close to the Bluegrass type effort, he'll win the Derby. It's just, canny. Now, over the years in the Kentucky Derby, there have been horses that have won the Bluegrass by giant margins that were totally phony horses. Keeneland's original dirt track used to have these unbelievable inside speed biases where the inside was like a conveyor belt that would just carry horses around the track. that surface was so hated by bettors. So Keeneland actually switched to a synthetic surface, a poly track, and for several years was poly track. Horses that would run on that rarely would run well at all on Churchill's dirt track. It wouldn't get the top dirt shippers. So there were years where the Bluegrass was basically a glorified grass type race. It was a synthetic race. When Keeneland went back to a dirt surface, those crazy days of inside speed biases, they weren't every day at the old Keeneland, but they would come and go. But when they were there, they were powerful. Keeneland's a pretty fair track now relative to what it was before. The gist of it, don't let what happened with horses like Millennium Win, Wild Sin. I'll show you their PPs now to show you what I'm talking about. So here, this is Wild Sin in the 1995 Bluegrass. One of these big speed bias days at Keeneland, was able to get loose on the lead through a 49 flat half. Slow pace is an understatement. Just milked it on the front end, won by over 2 lengths at 30-1 odds. And the horses that were eventually 1-2 in the Kentucky Derby that year, Thunder Gulch, he finished 4th in this Bluegrass Stakes. He was wide against this slow pace. And Tejano Run was 3rd in this race. They were the 2 wides in this race. This was only like it was a 6-horse field. The 2 wide trip closers were Thunder Gulch and Tejano Run. They run 3rd and 4th. No one wants to bet them in the Derby now because they just got trounced by Wild Sin. They run 1-2 in the Kentucky Derby. Wild Sin, he didn't get a 49 half in the Kentucky Derby. 45 and 4, wasn't able to make the lead. Backed up. He's one of the horses that helped give these Bluegrass winners a bad reputation. I'll show you a couple more. Here's Sinister Minister. Sinister Minister got carried by one of these conveyor belt speed biases. The number was huge, but it was practically irrelevant. It was just a conveyor belt speed bias that carried him around that day. Actually got bet to 9-1 in the Derby for Baffert off this race. Got beat 30 lengths. These type of performances should not be held against Further Ado. Further Ado, 1, did not go to the lead, and 2, was not carried by a speed bias. He's not even a speed horse. He came around horses completely different Keeneland track. And Millennium Wind here's another example. Got to the lead, got carried by the conveyor belt, got a huge number, 9-1 in the Kentucky Derby. He was not going to get loose on the lead in that Derby that year. They went 44 and 4 to the half, and so there may be some people that try to discount Further Ado's Bluegrass win because, horses have run on paper what look like freakishly big races when they really weren't in the Bluegrass before. Those horses bombed, but completely unrelated to anything to do with Further Ado. That was, these old Keeneland speed biases from before when they put in the poly track. And I mean, those were just some of the most unbelievable conveyor belt biases. And that's not the case anymore. So Further Ado, real deal, 2 gigantic performances at Keeneland. The question is, how well will he run on the first Saturday in May? And that's the question you're going to have to answer. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to take a look at Commandment tomorrow, another big-time horse for Brad Cox.